We're talking intellectual property with Brian and Ying. So why should startups care about their IP?
If it's, we always say, worth stealing, it's probably worth protecting. Assuming a startup has assets which are valuable, you certainly should think at least about protecting it.
What sort of assets?
Could be intellectual property assets in terms of ideas, designs, trademarks. Even as simple as your URL on the website, is worth protecting.
When you say protecting, what does that mean in practice?
Brand and your logo. When you're a startup, obviously you think you'll be very famous eventually, so that is worth protecting. Trademark protection, registering your trademark, I think that's the first step every startup should take.
Where do you draw the line between trademark of your logo, I guess is kind of obvious, as well as your URL, but do you trademark processes or other things that you do internally that maybe are not quite so tangible?
That's a different kind of protection that we're talking about. So trademark would be like your badge of origin. It protects your brand and your logo per se. Your processes, it could come in the form of registered design. It could come in the form of copyright protection. So it really depends on what you're trying to protect.
And what's the benefit of doing all of this?
The first thing is to prevent other people from stealing from you. You know, when you're a startup and you're canvassing for funds, you float your ideas around and people who wants to invest in you might decide that they like your ideas but they don't like you. So that's where you should be protected in that sense.
Also talk about one of the cheapest ways of protecting your brand would be your domain name, your URL. That can be done in literally minutes online. You don't need a lawyer. You just make sure that you've obtained your domain name. Because once someone else has taken your domain name, recovering it, is a process which can be costly.
Still, if you've got a domain name .com, does that mean you have to buy .net, .org, and all the other permutations as well?
Recently, there is a new explosion in the internet, in ICANN. So what they do is they can even go as specific as .books, .penguin. So I think it's a balancing exercise. You have to decide whether buying all of the different permutations will protect you adequately or not, versus the cost that's incurred. That's a balancing exercise which cannot be answered in a straightforward yes or no.
Lastly then, take the counter-example. What if you don't do all of this? I mean, you could quite happily survive without, can't you?
Yes, you can, but when somebody else registers a trademark and they come after you and say that you have infringed on their trademark because you've been working with the name, it will be in an awkward position and you will face disputes. Second example, somebody else who's actually the registered trademark owner can come up with his line of products. Your clients would be confused. So that's a second scenario that might happen, which I think are both unsavory.
All right, so it's not just that they could steal your ideas, but that you could be seen as stealing other people's ideas.
Yes. Not ideas per se, more, for trademarks it's more of branding, a logo, a branding, the goodwill that's associated with your trademark. Just like if Facebook didn't trademark their names, they can easily face suits from somebody else who has registered. I mean, whether it is valid or not is another issue, but it's unnecessary hassle.
When should we meet to talk about coaching for depositions?
Actually, it's the reply submissions open call.